was the takeaway for the 3 games in Orlando, did you feel like?
Yeah, I'd say overall, first time we had adversity for sure. And when we did, felt like against VCU, didn't start with the defensive focus and intent we've had. Fortunately, we were able to turn the tides late and battle back and get a win, but we shouldn't play from behind. Same thing happened against Virginia Tech. We're playing from behind, and that's a spot we can't put ourselves in. And then the opposite thing happened in our last game with A&M. We got off to that great start. We were playing with tremendous confidence. And then, we lost our focus in terms of, continuing to get stops and continuing to move the basketball. And then we put ourselves in a tough spot there. So what we've got to really aim to do is just keep doing our job every single possession, regardless of up or down or things are going our way or not. And then we'll stack up those positive plays. We didn't handle adversity as well as we should have. And then we put ourselves in some really challenging positions, whether it was starting up and then, having the lead slide, or it was starting from behind and then trying to climb back in.
When you guys had the offensive lulls, was there a common denominator there, or a common thread?
Yeah, look, I'd say more than anything, we've got to continue to move the basketball and get in the paint. I think when we stalled out offensively, it was more guys like feeling the pressure of, I've got to make a shot or I've got to make a play, instead of just saying, there's 5 guys out here, let's share the ball, let's move it and play for one another. So I thought at times the guys who really attacked the basket could have probably moved the ball and made a play for a teammate. Maybe the guys who are the guys that knock down shots more regularly could have waited for a better shot and been more patient. And certainly as a group, the ball movement and attacking the paint are things that we really take pride in. We've got to do that. You can't get to those moments and then feel like you've got to make it happen by yourself. And I felt like that was part of our issue.
What have you seen in practice in terms of the guys being receptive to this is why things didn't go our way?
Yeah, I think there's been a good intent. It's one thing to do it in practice, and we take pride in building those habits. It's another thing to stay the course when you're in the game. And I think with our group, there's guys like Rob and Taman who have been part of a lot of impactful wins over the years, or over the 2 for Rob and 1 for Taman. And so you're seeing a consistency with how they approach everything and how they play. And so they're relatively consistent with everything that they're doing. For some of the others that are newer to the program, they've got to adopt that same level of consistency of, no matter what happens on offense, we get a stop. No matter what happens with this shot, we're going to be on the glass. No matter what's going on in the game, we're going to share the basketball. And that's the poise, the togetherness, and the growth that this team needs to show.
Curtis is obviously struggling with shooting the ball, but how was he impressed with his defensive intensity and assist to turnover ratio? It seems like he's making a lot of winning plays, and his track record as a shooter kind of speaks for itself.
Well, I'd say more than anything with Kurt, he needs to – I know he's a great shooter, and I know he'll make those shots, but the thing of it is he's taken too high degree of difficulty shots to get himself going. He just needs to keep the basketball on the move, let the rhythm of the game come to him. He'll knock down that first one, and then his rhythm goes. Right now he's trying to force that a little bit too much. We need him to be a terrific ball movement guy offensively. He needs to be a high assist, low turnover guy. He's proven to do that before. He averaged 5 rebounds a game. We need 5 rebounds every game. And then he's gotten some steals by being in gaps and doing some things that way. He needs to keep focusing on those areas, and then the offense will take care of itself for him.
Saw Jackson get a few more opportunities down in Orlando. What has he kind of done in practice to really impress you?
Well, I think more than anything for Jackson, he's got to bring fight to everything that he does. He has that competitive spirit, kind of that chip on his shoulder, that edge. He's got to come into the game in that stance, clapping, right, ready to guard the basketball, bring fight to our whole team. And then we know offensively, he's a guy who dribble, pass, and shoot. He's played the point. He can play off the ball. He's just, he's an offensive player that's a weapon. And he needs to have the defensive intent. He needs to have the intent to move the basketball. He needs to be impactful to the level that he can on the glass. And then we'll trust his offensive game staying on the move.
When you look at how the 3 games went for you, it's easy to say, well, it's just the degree of difficulty went up and it was an adjustment. Is it as simple as that? To some degree with how you guys played, both good and bad? Yeah,
I'd say the level of physicality in those games was a big step above where we played at. So I think there was times that we got a little bit emotional, felt like we were getting fouled or things weren't coming as easy to us. And then instead of like bonding together and sticking together, it was just times we tried to do things one-on-one, wherever that was. So certainly the competition level was elevated. The level of physical play was elevated. And I think as much as anything, like when you're as a group, when you're tested or when you have adversity or when you have those challenges, when you have that confidence to call upon from experience together, you find a way to bind together. That's something that we're, really working hard right now to try to build and practice and carry over to the game.
You guys, the last 2 years have had that so good right from the jump, but is what you experience probably more the norm of what a team with so many new guys and youth would be the trajectory of a team to go through?
Yeah, I would say so, because you're still trying to bring that group together. We've been fortunate in the past with some of the guys that have come in. They've played a lot of those games, whether it's you're playing in the Big Ten or the A-10 or whatever, and you're playing a lot of those high-level games. So you have a better understanding of what to expect when you get to that game. I think it is a lot more typical for teams in college basketball when you have new guys to, you're kind of trying to figure things out. We've been fortunate, first 2 seasons, things went our way right away from the jump. So, regardless of what's happened in the past and regardless of, even what happened in Orlando, this team has to continue to focus on being great in practice every day and really, coming together in those challenging moments. Because I think what I've learned more than anything over the last couple of years, you're going to have adversity. There's going to be a lot more of it. There's going to be adversity in a possession. There's going to be, adversity in a half or a stretch of a game. There's going to be adversity in multiple games. And having that ability to bind together and get a stop or get a basket or get a key rebound, that's something that, we're going to continue to demand, and we're going to get to a point where we're doing that with regularity.
I know getting to the free throw line a lot more was a focus, and you're doing that. Obviously, there have been some struggles shooting it there. Is that a function of kind of who's getting there? It's just sometimes, it becomes a little contagious maybe when you miss a couple.
Yeah, I'd say the magnitude of the free throws, right? Like when you're in a game and you hadn't scored in a little bit, and now you get to the line, I could definitely see maybe guys putting more pressure on themselves in that situation. It's not the same as what you shoot in practice. You can get tired, you can play noise. It's just a whole different, dynamic, especially when you're struggling to score and you go there and you're like, my team needs me to make these 2 right now desperately. And so the right guys are getting there. They're going to keep getting there. They're going to convert them as we move forward. And now we've had those experiences under our belt to learn from and know where to keep our mental focus so that we can convert when we get there. Because I've been pleased with, our ability to get to the foul line. I think, we're about made more still than what our opponents attempted. Most people would say that's really good. We need to continue to stay in that space and convert more.
You talked about battling adversity. How have you seen the team kind of respond here since getting back from Orlando in practice?
Yeah, I mean we've had good practice. Guys have come with an intent, and again it's building those habits so they carry over for the game. I mean, we've got a good spirit. There's a lot of really high character guys in that locker room. They want to do well. They want to play for each other. For many, this is the first experience against that level of competition, whether you're a transfer coming up a level, whether you're a freshman. And so we've just got to continue to respond to whatever comes our way in a positive manner, to learn from it quickly, and then be very intentional to go out and get the win and be successful. And we've seen that. And so as long as that continues, we know that the wins and losses it'll come around and take care of itself for us.
I guess as you then look ahead to the DePaul game on Friday night, what are you kind of looking for in terms of them responding to adversity on the court in a game after a week of practice?
Yeah, I mean it's the stretches in the game where maybe you need to get a stop and everybody needs to just bind together and do their job on defense. Then it's the times on offense where maybe a couple possessions don't go your way, and instead of one guy forcing a drive or one guy taking a hard shot, having more poise and togetherness to just believe in one another, share the ball, get later in the clock and get a better possession. That's something we've got to do. The winning in the margins, the free throw battle, the rebounding, the loose balls, those things are always going to be important. They'll continue to be important, especially when you go on the road and you play a true road game. This is our first opportunity doing that. So all those things matter, and we got to keep getting better in all areas.
Thoughts on DePaul?
Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, they're a group with a lot of gifted individuals, similar to us. They're trying to find themselves and come together, and how does this team fit together, and how do they play for one another? They got Etienne back from an injury, so they're more at full strength than what they've been. They're a team that I'd say they're skilled offensively. They're athletic. They'll change defenses and give us some different looks. And then you also know, like, when you go into these games, they've had a couple home losses. But when you're playing against a Power 5 opponent who's done pretty well, like, they're going to be more geared up and amped up to get the win too. So we've got to be at, that next highest level to take our game onto the road and be really competitive, because they're going to come out ready to play.
Milan was saying on one of their post-game radio interviews that you guys want him to find more shots, especially when he's hitting all of them. Did you think he did that well in the last game?
Yeah, I'd say the number one message I'd have for Milan is that he needs to do physical things. He needs to rebound the basketball. He needs to jump wall. And when he does those physical things, his offense becomes more physical. So now against Virginia Tech, when he's doing things more physical, he gets to his spot and hits the pull-up, or he catches the ball in the post. It's not about running plays for him. Certainly our guys have to have an intent of when things are going well for him or any guy that's a scorer. But at the same time, to me, I put that on Milan is do the physical things all the time and play highly aggressive, and those things will work itself out. We've seen great signs from him of doing that. He has great character, but we're going to continue to challenge him to be better because we know, what a great player he can be and that he's got a lot more to give.
You talked a few weeks ago about Hassan's foot needing procedure. Where's that kind of at in his recovery, I guess?
Yeah, from what I understand, it's like another week from now, like he gets off the crutches and we start to evaluate, okay, now he's in a boot. What does that mean? Again, we're a ways away. I think it's a very safe time frame to say it won't be anything until after non-conference play concludes. Whether it, hopefully selfishly it's immediately when conference play starts. Whether that is or not, we're going to do what's in his best interest. But I don't know that between now and Christmas there'll be a ton of information regarding his injury outside of how has he responded once he's gotten to that final week or 10 days of his program to come back.
What kind of spirits have you seen him in on a day-to-day basis as he goes through this tough personal battle?
Well, I mean, it's certainly a challenge for anybody when you're in your last year of college basketball and you've worked as hard as he's worked and you care as much as he's has cared. Then it has a mental effect on you. It is. You probably start to self-evaluate. Have I done everything in my power at all times to put myself in the best position? Have I never let a day pass by? Because when it's taken from you, you realize very quickly, you start to have all those thoughts. So I'm sure there's been up and down times. As it gets closer and closer to that ability for him to be out there and playing again, I'm confident that his spirit will be uplifting and everybody will be uplifting to him as well. But I'm sure there's still a spot of it seems a ways away if you're him from being able to be out there and compete again.